My name is Maxine Dangler, and I am on the Unitarian Universalist Congregation at Shelter Rock's Women Group Board. We are pleased to sponsor the League of Women Voters and are honored to provide the space for the candidate night. We want you to be aware that as a representative of UUCSR, we want to reiterate that we are asking you to comply with the League of Women Voters form procedures. We would like to especially point out number 11 on the form procedures agreement that has been posted on the door, that there is no recording allowed by any of you present. The League has engaged professionals for recording purposes, and they are the only ones who will be allowed to record. In addition, we expect all attendees to act in a respectful manner, and if not, you will be told to leave. This will be at the discretion of both the League and the congregation. Also, the forum will end should the audience be deemed disruptive. Thanking you in advance for your courteous and respectful way. I would like to introduce League of Women Voters President Regina Gounaris.
Thank you and welcome everybody to tonight's forum. I'd also like to thank the UUC Women's Group for providing this venue and co-sponsoring this event, as well as North Shore TV for broadcasting this event and sending us a copy for posting on our YouTube following the event. Again, my name is Regina Gounaris. I'm president of the League of Women Voters of Port Washington-Manhasset. And as you know, our local league, as well as the League for New York State and the U.S. League, are nonpartisan. That means that we do not oppose or sponsor any political candidate or party, for that matter. All our forums offer candidates a public space to answer your questions in a fair manner and with civil discourse. Thank you to all the members of our league who've teamed up to make these forums successful, and thanks to you, the audience, for giving us your valuable time in listening to our candidates speak about issues that matter to you. Our voter services work includes forums like this, voter registration, and more. We hope you will consider joining our league. Membership forms are available on the table outside, and you can also go to our website or use the QR code in the pamphlet to join. Anyway, we hope you'll consider joining the league. Remember, it's not for women only. And with that, I introduce our candidates and Marnie Schlesinger, who will be moderating tonight's forum.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Marnie Schlesinger, and I'm a member of the League of Women Voters. Before we begin, I have forum procedures that were agreed upon today that I'm going to read to you. It should take about 3 minutes, so please bear with me. I, the moderator, am from the League of Women Voters from outside of the district from which the candidates are from. Candidates' opening statements will be determined by drawing lots before in-person events. The same order will be for opening statements. Each candidate will be allowed 3 minutes for an opening statement. After all candidates have spoken, I will open the meeting with questions from the audience. Cards will be handed out for written questions. These will be vetted prior to being asked so that duplicative, personal, abusive, or biased questions can be discarded. The moderator will be the arbiter of whether questions are appropriate, repetitive, or abusive. Each candidate will be given 1.5 minutes to answer each question. At the moderator's discretion, the time for a response may be reduced as long as it is the same for everyone. There will be no rebuttal. Questions may be addressed to a specific candidate or to candidates in general, although the candidates will be given an opportunity to answer any question addressed to a specific individual. I will attempt to rotate the order of responses for each question. A league member will act as timekeeper. 1.5 minutes from the end of any given time period, the timekeeper will alert the speaker by a pre-arranged signal. When the time is up, the speaker will be allowed to finish the sentence. Repeatedly speaking past the deadline may result in a candidate losing time for a future question or for others getting additional time. Candidates will have 2 minutes for a closing statement, and since the purpose of the meeting is to determine the candidate's views, no substitute speaker will be allowed to appear should a candidate be unable to attend in person. No written or recorded statement may be provided in lieu of active participation by a candidate. Forums require 2 or more candidates to be present for each seat. The use of props, charts, or visuals, and the display of campaign literature is prohibited. In accordance with the league policy, the league owns the content of its forums. Audio or video recording by authorized members of the media will be permitted only if it is agreed to by all candidates present. The league maintains the right to record the forum and publish it on the League of Women Voters controlled electronic pages. No other recording will be allowed. No partial transcript or recording may be published without written permission from the league. As Regina has said, we are here tonight because we believe that citizenship requires both voter education and civic engagement. We believe that the responsibility for maintaining good government rests on the voters. So we have expectations for you. Please be sure that your cell phones are turned off or silenced, and please do not block the doors or the camera. Your purpose is to hear from the candidates, so let's focus on their voices and not on yours. Please remain seated and silent during the question and answering, unless you are submitting questions. As moderator, I will stop the debate if the audience interruptions reduce the time for candidates to speak, and we are here to listen to them. To repeat, league policy permits only authorized recordings of these forums. Taking clips or segments is not authorized. Any audience member who violates the agreed procedures for the forum or who disrupts the forum by ignoring these audience expectations after being warned may be asked to leave. Okay. Tonight, we will be hearing from the 2 candidates vying to be your representatives. We are hearing from Ms. Marianne Dalimonte and
Dave Franklin.
Dave Franklin. Okay. When the candidates arrived, you did draw straws, and it looks like Ms. Dalimonte will go first. I'll now ask the audience to applaud briefly after each candidate's opening statement, and then hold applause and other responses until after the closing statements. Ms. Dalimonte, please begin.
Good evening. Thank you to the League of Women Voters, to everybody who is here with us tonight for what I hope to be an informative debate. My family has lived in Port Washington for 4 generations. My husband, I think 6 or 7. I am a homeowner here. I raised my kids here and sent them to school here. I'm running for re-election on the town council because I want to continue to help strengthen our community so that the next generation can live, thrive, and raise their families here too. I am absolutely not a career politician. I originally worked in the music industry where I was responsible for keeping costs in check, creating policies and procedures that kept our spending down. I left that career to become a stay-at-home mom to 3 children. Well, that's when I embraced my role as a dedicated community activist. Over the past 19 years, I've collaborated with numerous passionate leaders, all while staying true to my authentic self. When I was approached to run in 2019 by former Supervisor Judy Bosworth, I jumped at the chance because I truly love this community and wanted to make sure that everyone had a voice. I've been knocking on doors every week and getting to speak to so many of our neighbors. The number one question they keep on asking is, why do you want to do this again? The answer is easy. I'm doing this for our community. I can't state strongly enough that we need to have someone in office that truly cares and will advocate for us. I have given and will continue to give all my constituents a place to be heard because Town Hall needs to hear your voice. I am transparent, accessible, and I truly care. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be with you here tonight so we can hear more about District 6. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Dave Franklin. Thanks again, as always, as Mary Ann said, to the League of Women Voters. We appreciate everything you do to keep the public informed. Before I start, I would like to take a moment and just remember the people in Israel who were brutally slaughtered. If we can just take a moment. Thank you. I'm only a 36-year resident of Port Washington, so I guess I'm a rookie.
You're not a clam digger.
No, not a clam digger. But I grew up in Jersey City, and it was spread out wide. It was just a ragtag community. Coming to Port Washington was my first true sense of community, that I found out what life was supposed to be all about, and I got involved. I was part of the Port Washington Crisis Relief Team during Hurricane Sandy. We set up shelters for the people. We set up, and we were at the Landmark Theater. We had TV, we had charging stations, we had food delivered, just to give people some sense of normalcy. I'm a charter member of the Hibernians. I am with the Knights of Columbus. I am with the Kiwanis. I'm with the Lions. I'm with the Sons of Italy. I do red stocking to make money for cancer care. I also am with the Community Synagogue Theater Program. There are no kids in the place, right? I'm Santa Claus. I was professionally Port Washington. I was the police commissioner in Port Washington for 9 years. I was with HBO for 36 years. I'm not a professional politician either. I'm all about public service. 13 of those were as shop steward, representing the people, representing the rank and file for their needs. I'm an advocate of just people over politics, as I said. I am part of St. Peter's Parish, and I have been for 35 years. I'm a lector. I'm part of the parish council. I'm one of the parish trustees, and I am presently the Deputy Commissioner of Parks and Recreation for Nassau County. I have the experience in government. I have the experience in the community to get this done. As I said, my motto is people over politics, and I'm just looking to make a difference. Thank you.
Mr. Franklin, the first question will go to you. Okay. With the large increase in traffic on major and town roads and the mixed ownership of roads between the town of North Hempstead and Nassau County, how do you plan to increase pedestrian and child safety throughout the town of North Hempstead?
Well, we have to educate the drivers, first of all. Sadly, we had this discussion the other night with the Port Washington, the park section, the civic section. You cannot govern attitude, but we have to teach people that stop signs are not suggestions, that they are laws. We have to teach kids not to be looking down on their phones when they're crossing the street or walking down the street. It's traffic. We had a discussion also about possibly for schools, making some of the streets one-way during school hours, or at least during the pickup and drop-off, to alleviate some of the traffic problems as well. A lot of it is just educating the public, and there's nothing you can do really to widen the roads. And the police department, I know, Commissioner Meyer is here. We discussed this last night as well. Just getting the police out there and then being more active and pulling the people over. And maybe when it hits them in the wallet, they'll start to understand that it's time to pay attention.
Ms. Dalimonte.
Oops, sorry. So first, when I came to the town in 2020, it was a pandemic, but I found that there was a grant that the town of North Hempstead had for many, many years. It literally went from Port North to the school district, and then finally went to the town of North Hempstead. And it was just sitting there. So I get things done. I said, we are doing this. We added a sidewalk for the children that walk to Guggenheim. We also did work at Daly, and we also did work at Salem. And it was the Safe Routes to School program. And we worked with that program, and I made sure that that project got done that was sitting there for a very, very long time. Also, I have a very good working relationship with the police. Literally, I am on the phone with them probably every day. Today, probably about 10 times. I work very well with them. I have a round table that is a bunch of civic organizations in the town. There's about 35 members, and we talk about police activity and safe routes to school. And the next one, that when I am reelected in November, will be in January, and that will be with the school district and the civic associations all over the Port Washington. So I saw my thing come up, stop, so.
At least somebody pays attention
It's
to
hard,
stop signs.
yeah. I pay attention to stop, we pay attention to stop signs.
All right, the next question is for Ms. Dalimonte.
Okay.
How do you feel about the multi-level building proposal at Bar Beach Road?
So I am an elected official, so I am going to tell you what I am allowed to say. I have major concerns about 145 West Shore Road. To put sewers down there would cost over $18 million. That is right on our Hempstead Harbor. As everyone knows, I am trying to clean up the harbor and the bay. Putting a 7-story unit there with 170, I know Edda's going to correct me, 171 or 172 units, thank you, is absurd. I have major, major concerns. And that is why I have made sure that the community has been informed of everything that is going on in my newsletter. Literally, when I put out something regarding 145 West Shore Road, it gets its own newsletter. So I have been keeping the community involved and letting everybody know what is going on. I don't want to see that stop sign.
Same question, Mr. Franklin.
I agree with Mary Ann that it's unnecessary, not just for the sewers, but we're pretty crowded enough as it is. What it's going to do to the traffic, what it's going to do to the school systems. We can't handle that. We had the question before about schools, about safety on the streets and safety on the sidewalks. All it's going to do is add more cars, or more cars rushing to the train stations in the morning. I think it's a bad idea, and I'm against it. I didn't get the 30-second one on that one.
Okay, Mr. Franklin, do you have an opinion on the IDA, the Industrial Development Agency, in rental buildings?
Again, I'm going to go back to where we are. If one of the things I do oppose is the Hochul housing plan. I'll come out and say that. They're looking to do top-down authorization. They want to take care of all our planning, all our zoning. That's something that needs to be done at the local level. Do we need more housing? At what point do we get too crowded? At what point are we full? This is something we have to discuss, not just on the board, but with the community as well. You look at Main Street, you can't get through there during rush hour. You can't get through there at night. It's insane. You see what happens with the trucking now. You know, if we're going to get more box stores because we have more people, at some point you're full. I mean, if we do come up with housing, it's got to be done sensibly, and it's got to be done locally.
Dalimonte.
So Governor Hochul put out a plan to eliminate all of the local codes for housing. I am completely against that. I sent a letter to Governor Hochul stating that I was completely against that. Do we have a housing crisis? Yes. But what needs to happen is we need to bring the police, the school, the town, everyone together in a room and decide here what is good for our community, what is good for Port Washington. Because what is good for Port Washington might not be the same to our neighboring town, what is good for Roslyn or what is good for Manhasset. Every community is different, and that is the most important thing. Now, I do know the question was about the IDA and building for rental. I'm assuming the question is that they want to know if the IDA should be giving taxpayers money for rental, I'm assuming that. I don't know, but it depends. It would have to be for the right fit.
All right. Traffic is a problem. What plans do you have to reduce it? Yeah. Excuse me. Okay. All right. As you have had previous experience, Ms. Dalimonte, with the business district, which has had continued problems with the town of North Hempstead Building Department. Is there a reason why forces have not been joined with the town supervisor in her efforts to fix these issues with the building department?
So I would like to first start off that whoever answered that question, please go back to, I believe, April board meeting of last year. I called on the supervisor to set up 2 task force. One task force would be to bring community architects, engineers, electricians together to go over our code. The next task force was to bring everyone together to go over the procedures, okay? So can we do better with our building department? Yes. Also, I stood with the supervisor at her press conference when she called on for an audit by the Nassau County Comptroller. So I have stood with her on that press conference. Regarding the BID, just so you know, we are strong in Port Washington, if you did not know that. In 2020, during a pandemic, we had 9 businesses open. During a pandemic, keep in mind, in 2021, we had 17 businesses open. 2022, we had 22 new businesses open. In 2023, so far, we have had 16 businesses open and more on the way. So I sit on the Business Improvement District Board, just like my 2 predecessors did, and we are doing everything we can. I have followed Smushed to get open. Yes, there were problems, but we worked on it together. And I will sit with any business that wants to come in here and do and go through the process with them.
Mr. Franklin.
We do have businesses that are opening. We do have some that are closing as well. Ivory Kitchens is closed. They couldn't sustain here in Port Washington. We still have a lot of empty storefronts. Port Washington is a destination. We have to give people a reason to come here. There are restaurants, there are a dime a dozen in every town. You can't just come for the restaurants. People may come for the antiques. We have to give people a reason to come to Port Washington. I'd like to see utilizing the Landmark Theater for entertainment. I think entertainment is going to be key to bringing people here. I'd like to advertise on the railroad to make sure that people come and then utilize public transportation, and possibly when they're walking from the train station down to Landmark, they frequent one of the stores that we have or some of the businesses that we have. Opening a business is nice, but it's sustaining it that we have to work on. We have the box stores that most people shop in that takes away business from the stores on Main Street as well. We have a parking problem on Main Street. People can't get to the center of town. They can park up by the train station, they can park down by the town dock, but the middle Main Street seems to be losing. So there are a lot of things we have to work on, but it's getting people to come to Port Washington that's going to help the businesses.
In the event the position of supervisor is won by the candidate of a party opposite of your own, how do you plan on working with them to accomplish needed work for the town and, more importantly, your district?
That's mine.
Yes.
As I said, my motto is people over politics. I don't care whose idea it is. I don't care who came up with it. If it's a good idea for the town, we've got to implement it. There's got to be compromise. It can't be one-sided. It can't be left against right. It's not right against left. It's right against wrong. And if it's right for the town, it's got to be implemented. We've got to work together.
Ms. Dalimonte.
So when Supervisor DeSena started, I actually set up a breakfast with every single mayor in District 6 for her to meet and to introduce. I had every intention on working with Supervisor DeSena. If she wins, I have every intention of working with her again. But I do my research. If I think something is bad for the town that could put us in jeopardy with New York State for alienation of parkland or anything like that, I am not going to vote on it. But also, it goes both ways. You have to also have someone in that position that wants to work with you. I have had many emails that have not been returned, many phone calls that have not been returned. I am more than willing to work with anyone that's in that spot as long as they're willing to work with me.
Thank you. Ms. Dalimonte, do you believe climate change is man-made and a crisis?
So, what was it, a week ago, we had a storm. Every 5 seconds, Harbor Road's closed, Mill Pond's closed, this is closed. Climate change is real. We need to protect our environment. We need to be the voice for our environment. The earth does not have a voice. We need to be the voice. And we need to make sure that we are doing everything we can. That's why I really worked hard to bring Pedal Share to Port Washington. It's a bike share program that I just filmed a video yesterday. Instead of getting in your car to go to Manhasset, I could take the bike, ride it to the train station, get on the train, and then go to Manhasset. There are so many things that you can do. We need to take care of the earth. It is here for all of us. I want the earth to be here for my grandkids one day. So my thought to everyone is we need to take care of everything. We need to have a tree canopy. We need to make sure that everything we do, I'm sorry. Oh, I did? Okay. I thought you were, so we just need to make sure that we protect our property. And with these intense storms, we really need to do something. We are having flooding issues in Port Washington, and we need to put money in our budget for flood mitigation. For flood mitigation. Thank you.
I gave her 10 seconds of my time.
Thank you.
I'm not a scientist or a climatologist, so I can't comment. There are varying opinions on both sides. There are current changes. There are currents that affect what happens. We've had storms that come here. We have most storms that pass us by. It's just by chance. I see now that with the El Nino, we're expected to have a brutal winter. This is part of the earth. I mean, the earth has been here for billions of years, and the earth does have a voice because if we screw up, there'll be an ice age. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to argue the fact that we do need to do more as far as conservation, as far as energy, and do our part not to pollute. But as far as I can't intelligently comment on climate change.
The next is a two-part question.
Okay, let's write it down. Port one.
I'm happy to repeat
Okay.
for each person. Okay, the first is for Mr. Franklin. Have you any plans to improve services in the animal shelter? And part two is, what can be done to stop the rising tide of feral cats in the town?
Okay. I'm an animal lover. I'm a cat lover too. We've owned 12 cats over our time here in Port Washington. I would say that the catch and release program that a lot of people are talking about makes sense. The catching the cats and then having them spayed or neutered and then re-releasing them so it doesn't regenerate a problem. You're always going to have ferals. One of the problems that you have with ferals, people I've spoken with, is they're very hard to domesticate. So it's not like you can adopt a feral, but at least what you can do is stem the tide of propagation with the ferals. That's it.
So the animal shelter, first I'd like to thank all the volunteers from Shelter Connection down there and our employees. I have a grant right now that I'm working on to improve the animal shelter down there. I do know that the engineers were down there today yesterday with the executive director regarding the feral cats. So we have two programs currently right now at the town of North Hempstead. At the last board meeting, I co-sponsored with Councilwoman Veronica Lurvy a voucher program to add another program for feral cats. When I received the 2024 budget, there was no money in there to continue that. I will be advocating to continue that voucher program. Please understand, our animal shelter does not just take care of the residents in the unincorporated area. Our animal shelter has to take care of all of the villages as well. And there are serious feral cat problems in the village of Manor Haven and I believe the village of Great Neck Plaza. So it's not just the unincorporated areas the animal shelter takes care of. It is all of the residents, 240,000 residents.
All right, next question. The topic is, and this is for Ms. Dalimonte, the town of North Hempstead fiscal responsibility and accountability. The town of North Hempstead has the highest debt per capita statistic compared to 4 other neighboring towns. How do you plan to be fiscally prudent for the town of North Hempstead?
So there was a resident that came to me and wanted to meet with me on this. So everyone has to understand this, that the town of North Hempstead debt includes the special districts. So all of the debt to get the 1.4 dioxin out of our water that the water district or the sewer district, when they go to bond something, or the police department, they bond through us. So by looking at the debt, it is not just town of North Hempstead debt. So that is very, very important that you understand that. So think of all the water districts that had to do work on their pumps. All of that debt is under the town of North Hempstead. So when you're looking at that, you have to be very, very careful and understand that is not just, even though it's in the town of North Hempstead, it is not just town of North Hempstead debt. So that is really important to understand. Also, for our capital projects, what we should be doing right now is using our fund balance to, instead of bonding for those projects, we should use our fund balance for the revenue for our capital projects.
Mr. Franklin.
Using the fund balance is one way to do it. We need to find creative ways of generating revenue for the town. As I said, if we can get people, we need to get tourism here. We need to get jobs on Main Street. If the businesses can be sustained, then you have taxpayers that are working in the town and living in the town. There was a program for revitalizing North Hempstead Beach Park, wasn't there? Did you get a check for $1 million or something from the state that was never moved on?
This is about debt.
I understand that. I'm talking about generating, and what I'm talking about is.
The only questions that can be asked.
Okay, sorry. I was just for point of reference, not an attack or anything. Just creative ways to generate revenue to offset the debt as well. I know we have money in the town balance.
Next, for Mr. Franklin.
Okay.
Let's see. In your opinion, and in light of state policies and programs, what are the top 3 critical issues facing the town of North Hempstead? What plans would you put in place to address or mitigate your identified issues and why? How would you pay for the action items in your plans?
Well, I think taxing is part of the problem. I think people are overtaxed. One of the ways we can help people, especially in light of what's happening in the country, that the prices are crazy. I don't know, the last time you went to the grocery store, I'd spent $100 for 2 bags. I used to be able to fill half the car with it. There's got to be a way to try to offset that cost for the people. We can reduce the taxes. I know Supervisor DeSena last year presented an 11% tax cut.
That's not true.
Yes, it is.
I'm sorry.
Okay. And then it was cut down to 5% by the board. I know this year she's got a tax cut in place as well. There's plenty of room. There's plenty of money in the reserve to give back to the people. I mean, taxation is part of the problem. One of the reasons why people are leaving, why people are having so much trouble here. I think one of the problems, fortunately, because of our police department, crime is not an issue. Safety is not an issue. It's simple things. Well, not simple, but people that are running stop signs and people that are on cell phones. You know, if those are the greatest of our worries, then we're okay. It's just, the other thing is just getting, working together, getting a board that will work together and not against each other. We have So many problems. If you've been to a board meeting, it's just, it's fighting. There's no room for politics at this level. We've got to get a better solution. We've got to work together. It can't be left against right. It's got to be about what's best for the town. That's my biggest concern, is getting the board to work together again.
So I just have to say something. In the 2022 budget, there was actually, and you can go to the tape of the board meeting, it was submitted a tax increase of 2%. So DeSena received a bad headline from the news, so then she went and tried to illegally change it. The budget has to be submitted by the law by September 30th. The budget that we received was a 2% tax increase. Then tried to say that she did not know about the money in the fund balance. That was not accurate. Her senior staff knew about the money in the fund balance. They presented in March of 2021 to Moody's that we had fund balance. So I need to clarify that. We worked as a board from the 2% tax hike to a tax cut of 5%. Now I'll go to the question. Lower the cost of living, defend our local environment, and protect our quality of life. And if whoever asked that question, I'll be more than happy to discuss that further, because I got to stop.
Now you have 20 seconds left.
I get worried when I get the first one. It's like a warning.
You can have as much time as you need. Come on.
All right. Ms. Dalimonte,
Yes.
are you concerned about the Great Neck Park District lease that requires the Village of Kings Point to alienate 5 acres of parkland in Kings Point? And how would you handle this issue?
Okay, so I do remember hearing something about this, but I am one that I do my research. Oh, I'm sorry, I do my research. So I really don't know what they're alienating it for. I thought that they were going to make the Great Neck Park District, they were going to do parking, and there was going to be more land for the park. So before I vote on something, I really want to make sure that I do my research, I cross my T's and dot my I's. So I feel like I would have, whoever asked this question, please let me do my research, reach out to me in the office, and I will be more than happy to give you my answer. I don't know that yet.
I'll be honest, I'm not familiar with the project, so there's nothing I can comment on. You had more time.
Okay, the next question is for Mr. Franklin. What do you think are the primary goals, fiscal, monetary, and management responsibilities of a town council member?
Keeping the budget in check, making sure that the spending is accurate and necessary. We can't spend everybody's money frivolously. This is, it's not a gift. We're spending taxpayers' money. We're spending our own money as well. We've got to be a little bit more frugal. We have to tighten the belt in some points. We have to take a look at where there's excess. If there's excess staff somewhere, it may be time to trim a little bit of the fat. But I think keeping an eye on the taxpayer money is job one, making sure that the money is spent properly, that the jobs that it's spent on are done properly and given to the right people. I mean, I don't necessarily agree with the lowest bidder plan, because the lowest bidder doesn't always do the best job. There's something that's got to be, I would amend, that you can choose from the top 3 and do some research. It should not necessarily just be the lowest bidder, because then you end up doing the same job twice if you get less than quality. So it's just making sure that the taxpayer money is spent properly. Thank you.
So just so you know, at the town, it doesn't go to the lowest bidder, it goes to the most responsible bidder. So that's very important. I feel that advocate for the residents, protect the quality of life. You also are passing legislation. I passed legislation for the volunteer firemen, I shouldn't say volunteer firefighters, and EMT. I sponsored that legislation to give them a tax break of 10%. They are volunteers. They are there. When your house is on fire, they're running into that house. They are there to protect us. So finding ways to do things in legislation. The Port Washington Police Department came to me. They needed legislation on urination. No one was able to give it to them. I did it. I passed it for them. And now Baxter Estates just passed it. So it's listening to your residents who have quality of life issues and then trying to pass legislation for them to have a better quality of life.
There have been rumors, this is for Ms. Dalimonte, there have been rumors that you have not been making full disclosures regarding your actual and/or appearance of conflicts of interest. Unlike the manner that the previous council person for District 6, who made it public and/or recused herself from voting on issues coming in front of the town of North Hempstead board meetings, you have not done the same. Can you explain why you have not? And secondly, for Mr. Franklin, what conflicts do you plan to disclose, and will you recuse yourself?
So I go first?
Yes.
So whoever asked that question is not doing their research. I have recused myself. My predecessors have been on the Business Improvement District Board. I am on the Business Improvement District Board because I was nominated from the town board. I represent the town of North Hempstead on that board. And I believe this has to do with Sunset Park. So the my predecessor, Dina DiGiorgio, and also my predecessor before that, Fred Pollack, also advocated for taking over Sunset Park. So it has been done. I have recused myself when they talked about it. And the Code of the Ethics Committee for the town of North Hempstead reviewed it, and they said I'd even have to. I don't even have to recuse myself. So I was going over and beyond what the Ethics Department even wanted. So one thing, if you know me, I am an honest person. I am a straight shooter. I will never. I grew up in this community. I am fourth generation. I am not doing something to hurt my reputation, my husband's reputation, or my family's reputation. I love this community too much to ever do anything like that. And please, if whoever asked that question, come speak to me because you did not do your research. And that's important. You have to do your research when you're asking questions like that.
Mr. Franklin, as to not be duplicative, there are two questions that overlap a bit. It says, if elected, will you resign from your full-time job with Nassau County?
No, I spoke with an attorney and said I didn't have to because this is a part-time job. As far as transparency goes, I was the one that asked the question as far as the conflict of interest. We were at a board meeting, I think it was the last board meeting, and there was a question that came up on the board as to whether or not there was a conflict of interest. The town attorney said he wasn't sure that it was a question for the Board of Ethics. I sent a letter to the town attorney. I have copies if anyone would like to see it. It was posed as a question. It was not a complaint. He said it was a question for the Board of Ethics, and nobody seemed to move on it, so I took the initiative and moved on it. The decision was made, and that was it. There was no conflict of interest. To me, that's end of story.
Mr. Franklin, in an interview with Blank Slate Media, you seemed to cast doubt on the results of the 2020 presidential election, saying that you're not sure if the truth will ever be known. Please explain your position on the 2020 election and election denial more broadly.
There were so many people. The question was posed as to whether or not there was any fooling around, I guess, and nobody will ever know. And that's the way, exactly what I posed. There were people that think that there were ballots added. There were people that think, that there weren't. You don't know, but the election results are final, and that's the end of it.
Not sure if Ms. Dalimonte is able to answer this question.
If you want to.
About the election?
Yeah.
The election is election.
Yeah.
Biden is our president. End of story on that. But I would like to just say, am I allowed to still talk? Is this still, okay. So my opponent said complaint. In the press release that went to the press, it was listed, I think, 5 or 7 times, the word complaint to the ethics. The town attorney, and it was 2 board meetings ago, the town attorney did state that he does not believe that there is a conflict of interest. But if you want, you could bring it to the Board of Ethics. That was just the question, right, about if Biden's our president? Okay.
That's fine.
You elaborated a little bit, but yeah, that's fine.
Thank you, Ms. Dalimonte and Mr. Franklin. We appreciate you participating and answering questions in a civil manner as you have. Okay, we're going to ask a final question. Okay, reducing carbon footprint. How do you plan to reduce emissions in your community?
I go first. So it's so funny that you said that. I just did a video yesterday that's going to be on the Go Green Town of North Hempstead channel. That's why I advocated for pedal share. Pedal share is located at Town Dock, Manor Haven Park, and the train station. And talking about destination, that's another reason why I advocated for pedal share. They can get off the train, get on a bike, and go everywhere in the town of North Hempstead. So yesterday we talked about how we can go from Port Washington to the train station without using a car. And we did it. And it's great. I got a lot of steps in. It was really, really, it was nice to be outside on a beautiful day, but it's very important. We all have to do this. Someone I work with, I carpool a lot with that person, so we only have to use one car and not two. It's really important that we come together and try and think of ways to reduce our carbon footprint.
Mr. Franklin.
Yeah, just very quickly, this is the letter to the attorney. Can you see what the heading says, please?
I have to put my glasses.
Okay, take your time.
Right now, the forum is only for questions
Okay.
from the audience.
Okay, sorry, this is just when she commented on something else other than the question she asked. I just wanted to clear this up.
Okay, we're going to move on.
Okay. Yeah, bicycles, walk. We need to get out and get more fresh air. Electric cars is the way to go. Just do your best to reduce the footprint. Don't use your car if you don't have to. Use public transportation if you can. Just, as I said, walking is better than anything else. I live on Fairview Avenue. I'd rather walk to the train station than drive. There's nowhere to park there anyway, so.
Before we take closing statements from the candidates, I'd like to remind voters that Election Day is Tuesday, November 7th, at your regular polling place. Early voting begins Saturday, October 28th, and runs through Sunday, November 5th. A recording of this forum will be available on the League of Women Voters, of Port Washington-Manhasset YouTube channel within 24 hours. Please put Wednesday, October 25th at 7 p.m. on your calendars. October 19th. Okay? Now on to closing statements. Put that on your calendar. Thank you. The Supervisors Forum will be here on October 19th. And the receiver of taxes. Now on to closing statements. Please offer applause to both candidates for their willingness to answer your questions tonight together on the same stage-like area. Thank you. And Ms. Dalimonte,
Okay.
would you please read your closing statement?
I want to express my gratitude to the League of Women Voters and for all of you joining us here in tonight's forum. Here's the key message I want you to leave with. I will never, and I will repeat that, I will never be a rubber stamp for anybody. I have never held a political patronage job, and my family's livelihood is not tied to party politics. No one's going to tell me how to vote. I'm going to vote based on my research. I remain committed to transparency and accessibility. If reelected, I will continue to get things done for our district, and I will continue to involve the community in the process. I am deeply connected to our community and well-versed in its challenges, which I'll continue to bring to Town Hall to enhance our quality of life while keeping spending in check and our taxes low. I'm seeking your vote because as your council person, I'm consistently represented these values. Ensuring the Town Hall genuinely listens to your concerns and incorporates your input into our future vision will remain my highest priority. We've made tremendous progress, and now we need to continue and to protect that progress. I have a list here of all my accomplishments by year. If anyone wants this, I am more than happy to send it to you. I fought with the DEC and I got the governor's office involved to put 2 million oysters in Manhasset Bay. It was not easy. I feel that I am the voice for Manhasset Bay because we need to improve our water quality in Manhasset Bay. And I am working with the Long Island Sound right now to improve our water quality at Manor Haven Beach Park because it got a C+ rating. I'd like to thank you once again for this opportunity tonight. And please remember, I am always here for you.
Mr. Franklin.
Again, thank you to the League of Women Voters for putting this together and for keeping us informed and staying responsible as far as government. Thank you all for coming out. I know there was so many other things you wanted to do at 5 o'clock today, but thank you for being here. Thank you for your questions and your interest. As I said, I've been here for 36 years. I know Mary Mann's been here all her life. This is not a popularity contest, though. We both have a lot of friends in town. This is about who's going to do the best job for you. I've been involved in this community for 36 years through charitable work, through things that there are no photo ops attached to, just things that had to be done during the epidemic, the pandemic rather, collecting food, donating money where it was necessary. No photo op, just doing the job that needed to be done. My kids grew up in this town. They went to school here. We've lived here. This is my home. I've never really had that feeling of community until I got here. And life is good, so you give back, and that's my attitude, and that's why it's about the people. I take no pride in ownership. As I said, if there's a good idea, I don't care who came up with it, Democrat, Republican, let's implement it. This is not right versus left. This is right versus wrong and what's right for the people. I've got the most government experience. I've got the most community experience, and I'm the right man for the job. And given the opportunity, I will serve as I have done for the last 36 years. Thank you.
Thank you to both the candidates, and thank you to everyone in the audience. Thank you for the thoughtful questions and for spending the evening educating yourselves about both candidates and for your engagement with democracy. Voters like you keep our democracy thriving and alive. Thank you.
everybody please sit down to hear our next forum with Mr. Stalter and Ms. Reggie Witten. Please sit down so we can begin. I'm sure you all have questions that you would like to ask. Please bring the questions to the vetters table because we don't want to have repeat questions. So the vetters will screen out to make sure that the conversation is orderly and progresses smoothly and there are no repeat questions. Please sit down. Thank you so much. Our next candidate forum will be moderated. Marnie? Are you going to moderate? Okay. Will be moderated by Marnie Schlesinger. And our candidates for this evening are Mr. Salter and Mr. Reggie Witten. Thank you very much. We're ready to begin.
Good evening again. Regina, thank you so much for the introduction. So just as a reminder, please turn off your cell phones or silence them if that has not already been done. Your purpose here is to hear from the candidates, so let's focus on their voices only. Please remain seated and silent during the Q&A. Unless you are submitting a question. As moderator, I will stop the debate if the audience interrupts. Interruptions reduce the time for candidates to speak, and we are here to listen to the candidates. To repeat, league policy permits only authorized recordings of these forums. Taking clips or segments is not authorized, and this forum will be posted on our League of Women Voters of Port Washington YouTube channel this week before the election. Any audience member who violates the agreed procedures for the forum or who disrupts the forum by ignoring these audience expectations may be asked to leave. Okay. We drew straws this evening, and it looks like Ms. DeReggie Witten is going to be first. Please hold your applause until the end of the forum. We have assembled to hear from these candidates this evening. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Is this working? You can hear it? Okay, thank you. And thank you to the League for offering such an important forum for everyone to get to really find out about the candidates. I enjoy visiting you each year, and I appreciate all the time that you put in to making sure that this is done in a very secure and positive and professional way. And thank you all for being here tonight. I know it's something that you came out, at 5 o'clock on a weeknight to come and learn about your possible future electeds and electeds. I am presently the legislator for the 11th district in Nassau County. My district consists of Glen Cove, Seacliff, Glenwood Landing, Roslyn Harbor, the village of Roslyn, Port Washington, and Sands Point. So I essentially, it wraps around Hempstead Harbor. Just real quick, the way that the county is set up, it's divided into 19 different districts. So there are almost 2 jobs as a legislator. One is to represent your district, and the other is to be part of the government, for the entire Nassau County. Nassau County has almost $4 billion budget, and we have different committees, and I'm proud to say I'm on the Rules Committee, which consists of the contracts. I'm also ranking on public safety and health, and it's really an interesting job. We deal with a lot of different, everything from infrastructure to opioid issues to just safety to our budget, which is a big thing that I feel that I've been a part of. We've really cleaned up corruption in the time that I've been there. I came in and there was really no procurement, and there was too many people got in trouble, honestly, in Nassau County, and I didn't want to see that. It was a waste of money. it ruined people's lives. It was not the way government should run. So I've been proud with my colleagues. We've put in a number of backups, not only with the forms, which really disclose pretty much everything that you have to disclose, and we don't do a contract without the disclosures, but we also created an office of an inspector general who looks at every contract. And I feel very proud of both of those accomplishments. Since we've put these mechanisms in place, there hasn't been one article or one real delving into issue as to whether or not there's been any type of corruption. So I'm proud of that. So I love my job. I've enjoyed it, and I've been lucky because I represent a great district, and I look forward to continuing, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Mr. Salzer?
Good evening. I would like to thank the League of Women Voters as well, and I'd like to thank everybody here in the audience for attending tonight. Julia did a great job of talking about the district that we are seeking to represent or currently represent. A little bit of background about myself. I'm a new face. I am not an elected official. Most of my government experience has to do with village-oriented procedures. I was, for over 10 years, I was the chair for the Environmental Commission for the Village of Seacliff, and I had held other appointed positions within the village, but nothing that was elected. So I'm a brand new face to you guys. A little bit of background, I grew up here in Manhasset. For the past 30 years, I've been an environmental scientist. So the aspects that I'm looking to do as a legislator in the 11th District is primarily, as Delia had talked about, the fact that the district absolutely surrounds, it's a horseshoe that surrounds Hempstead Harbor. And I boat there, my kids swim, they boat, water skiing, fishing, and so the Hempstead Harbor really means a lot to me and my family and everybody I know. As an environmental scientist, I'm looking to advance those aspects of the harbor. One of the things I'm here to say is that I don't have an agenda that I am looking to push forward as a potentially elected legislator. My agenda is more for a more general background in this day and era when things are sort of, let's say, unsensical, to put some more common sense into a position within Nassau County. And that and the other aspect that I push forward, since I've spent so much time dealing with environmental impact statements and other aspects that deal with community character. So I also am looking at aspects of local governance when it comes to developments and other aspects within the community. Thank you.
We're going to begin our first question. This will be, the first person will be Mr. Salzer. Okay. With rising populations and the environmental impacts of climate change, what are your opinions on building apartments and particularly large condominiums on the town of North Hempstead coastlines and overdeveloping our local towns and villages?
So, that was loud. One of the things that are really pertain to me is community character. So if we look at the district as a whole, I know this pertains to town North Hempstead particularly, but the district as a whole goes from Glen Cove, which is a city, all the way over to Sands Point. Each community is different in its own right, whether it be Sands Point, Port Washington, Roslyn, Flower Hill, Seacliff, Glenwood Landing. Each has sort of its own unique character. particular areas, I think, should be governed by their own desire to see what they want to see. So, in other words, Port Washington, in other words, it's pretty dense already, right? Where Sands Point's not going to, I can't see Sands Point as being a place where they would want to allow dense development. Port Washington is already rather dense, and I suppose developers have a way of really putting together positions where they can, build up higher or more densely, or smaller apartments or something like that. But I don't believe that the county should take part in those decisions rather than the local government.
Yes, I basically agree. I actually wrote an op-ed going against the governor, which is, my own party, but I was very concerned when we thought that the state was going to come in and tell local municipalities where they would have to change the zoning to build different apartments. Yes, I have 3 kids and I have 1 stepson, and I would love for them to be able to afford to live on Long Island. However, it has to be done in a very smart way, and I also agree that the zoning and different plans do have to be controlled by zoning and planning boards of local municipalities. I met with Sutherland, and I heard what they were proposing, and honestly, after my first meeting with them, I didn't meet with them again. I was worried about, first of all, the traffic is an issue, but also the safety. Having a pretty major road like Shore Road, for instance, if you're going to put a development there, you really wouldn't want it to have that turn right off of Shore Road. I think it would have been extremely dangerous with the hill. There was also environmental reasons and density and height, and I really couldn't think of many reasons in it that I would be in favor of it. And just, if anyone ever Googles me, they know that I was very much opposed to the towers in Glen Cove also, the RXR project. I was in favor of developing the area, but in a way that fit into the community.
Ms. DeRidge-Witten, what do you think are the primary goals, fiscal, monetary, and management responsibilities of a town council member?
Well,
County legislator.
okay, no problem. I was a city councilwoman for 2 terms also. So I think that basically I've been raised by someone. My father was the mayor of Glen Cove, and I was raised from the time I was young to understand that it's not our money. It's the people's money, and it's really a very high honor to be put in trust of that. And I take that very seriously. So again, with trying to eliminate corruption, which really is a hidden tax when you have corruption, you're really losing money. So I was very much in support of trying to clean up our procurement as much as possible, and I feel that we really, really have. I also think I was ranking on finance for a long time too, and we just did the budget, and you really have to look into the nitty-gritty of the budget to find things. And one of the things I just found at this last budget hearing, they have a very high reserve in the county right now. It's almost $1 billion. And that's great because it helps with our Moody's rating. But then come to find out that 400,000 of that million, 400 million of that 1 billion. 1 million is for opioid settlement. And the county's holding on to that money right now. They're not dispersing it. And the other, almost 300 million, is for COVID release. And they're holding on to that money also. So you need to find this because I'm very concerned about it. It's helping their Moody's rating, but it's money that really needs to go out to the public.
Thank you. Mr. Staltzer?
So the primary thing that the legislator does is to assure financial security and and to weed out corruption. I agree with Delia on that aspect. The monies that, so Delia knows more than I do. She's a legislator, I'm not. So I can't get into the specifics of it all. However, I'm assuming this money for opioid stuff are grants? No, they're not. But there's, I think the procurement process is something that has to be looked at, and also, fiscal responsibility is something I would definitely take a very hard look at.
We're going to take a pause for 1 moment. I'm going to bring you Judy.
So somebody has put candidate signs, campaign signs, all around the parking lot. This is the UUC, it is private property. Just an FYI, you cannot put campaign signs on private property without the owner's permission. So whoever did this, or anybody who might be interested in those people, should go out now and remove the signs. This is a formal complaint from both the league and the UUC. Thank you. Nobody's owning up to it.
I didn't put them out. I did notice one. Tony, do you mind grabbing that one sign that's out there? That's ours. Again, I didn't put it out there, but I was kind of not sure what to do with that.
All right, thank you. We're going to continue. Mr. Stalzer, what are your opinions about taking public land, for example, parkland, wetlands, shorelands, for private development? For example, what's happening in Great Neck Park?
I do not know exactly what's happening in Great Neck Park, and I really have no position on it. It's not even in the district.
Are you able to answer questions regarding the taking of, or the question of taking public land for private development?
So private development taking public land, I really don't have a clue what that means. If a government entity or municipality wants to sell it to somebody, that's another aspect, but a taking of public land for private development doesn't make any sense to me.
Ms. Dirigi-Whitten.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what the taking part means, if it's for sale. But the bottom line is, I know with parkland, we have to be extremely careful. When you alienate parkland, there's a lot of federal requirements that come into that type of situation. They're very, very against it, which I respect because I'm a big open space person. I believe the general idea, I ran into this on Manor Haven Boulevard because we were putting in sidewalks when we redid that road, and we were slightly short of the 4 feet that was required to do the handicap accessible sidewalks. So the idea of possibly taking a couple of inches from the town came up, and we ended up doing it a different way because it really is quite difficult to get any type of alienation. You have to have the same exact square footage found somewhere else. There's a lot involved. So I'm surprised that that's even really being considered, unless, again, it's a voluntary sale. But I really don't like to see that happen. I think we need to get more parkland. I like the open space bonding that the county's done in the past, and I fully support holding on to whatever open space and parkland that we have. And honestly, unless it was something really needed, I can't see myself supporting that situation.
Mr. Dirigi-Whitten, New York State and Nassau County have an affordable housing crisis. Ignoring all the levels of government you may disagree with, what do you want Nassau County to do?
Well, I think people know I don't like what's going on in the hub in Nassau County, which is the center part of Nassau County. I voted against the idea of a casino. And there's such acreage there that I really think that that would be a very good place to have a very transit central, next generation / possibly senior / veteran housing opportunity for at least part of that property. There was a plan prior to the casino that mentioned that, as well as also with various biotech companies coming in. We already had Sloan Kettering come in. So I think there are places in Nassau County, there aren't a lot because there isn't a lot of open space left, but there are places that I see that we could really focus on next generation housing. And I know the need, and I would love to see it, and I'd love to keep our young people here, but it has to be done in a very incremental, well thought out way.
So I'm a big believer in the free market, and developers who are going to develop something are going to develop it in such a manner as for them to make money. The amount of other environmental impacts to community character about building affordable housing that could be sustained for our younger population is quite daunting. The other aspect is, there's things like traffic that would be advanced as more housing units get built and other things like that. I had a real problem getting here this evening, as a matter of fact, on Northern Boulevard. So those kind of considerations are important towards the character of different communities around Long Island. There are communities around Long Island that can sustain some further development, but that's a case-by-case basis and not something that should be dictated by a county. I believe that should be dictated more by the local municipalities.
Mr. Stelzer, can you describe the present situation regarding redistricting? Please offer your opinion on the current lawsuit involving redistricting.
I hate redistricting. I think the districts are incredibly complicated, and they shouldn't be. I understand that they're done by population, and then there's back and forth about how many Democrats and how many Republicans and whatever else is going on there. I believe more in districting that pertains to either municipalities or school districts or some other districting that already exists in an area, rather than weeding out certain people or certain blocks of people within a community where, a community is split up into 2 different districts or 3. So I'm not a big fan of redistricting. I don't have an opinion on the lawsuit because I don't really know enough about the lawsuit to speak competently about it.
This is the second time I've lived through redistricting in Nassau County, and it's amazing the amount of effort that is made. And it kind of gives you pause because you realize that the reason that there's so much effort made is because, when you have power, it's very attractive to the parties. And if you looked at just the registration, there's 100,000 more Democrats than Republicans in Nassau County. Yet, we are 1 seat away right now of the Republican Party having supermajority, it's called, which is having 13 votes, which would be enough to bond, like borrow money, without having the other party do any types of checks and balances. I'm a big believer of checks and balances. It's Jeffersonian. They don't trust government. I'm not. I think that the districts, redistricting is important because it has to be 1 vote per person. You have to have an even amount of representation. But the amount of effort that has been made to basically gerrymander various groups to the fact that it's just the results in itself show it. And I'm here to tell you, I don't support supermajority on either side, Democratic or Republican. I think it's a very bad idea. And I'm honestly, I don't want to say terrified, but I am, of what could happen if there's no checks and balances, especially when it comes to borrowing. And just real quick about the lawsuit, supposedly there was a question as to whether or not the data involved off year or on year, and that's where the lawsuit is now, but I haven't heard any recent updates regarding it.
All right, Ms. DeReggie-Witten, what are the most pressing problems that you plan to address as a member of the Nassau County government?
Well, I, along with my colleagues, we're all worried about, we all have kids and we all worry about the future. And I think one of them is environmental. I wrote a piece of legislation that, first of all, one that requires the government building put solar panels on. We haven't even had a hearing on it. I also wrote legislation, which did pass unanimously, that banned fracking pellets. It's fracking wastewater that the companies don't know what to do with the fracking wastewater. So they found a way to dehydrate them, and they said, oh, guess what? It melts snow. Well, they melt snow because they're radioactive. And believe it or not, various municipalities use these pellets to melt snow. So I found out about it, and then we did a lot of research over summer. I had a couple of really good interns, and our piece of legislation banned it from ever being used in Nassau County. And what was interesting is the 5 boroughs, and I believe it was like 18 different counties in New York, adopted our piece of legislation verbatim, which I thought was a good sign. So I only answered one. Environmental's one.
Okay, so I'm going to agree again. Environmental is the number one issue, but my environmental issue really has to deal with community character and the sustainability of the communities within Nassau County to maintain what they're doing. Also, I would look towards advanced sewer districts to make sure that districts that don't have sewers at this time would, such as Seacliff and Glenwood Landing, that that basically drain into Hempstead Harbor. And I think advancement of sewer lines within those communities to allow people to hook up to those sewers and reduce the amount of nitrogen loading to Hempstead Harbor would be a huge benefit, as well as infrastructure improvements to stormwater drainage in those areas, as well as stormwater drainage in the South Shore, where they have a bunch of problems because they're so low-lying that when tidal surges come in, the tidal actually goes through the drainage lines and up into the streets, which causes additional flooding. I think there are engineering solutions that could be put into place. Of course, this costs money, which would take some state or federal funding to advance that.
Mr. Stalzer, what do you feel you can do to improve upon Ms. DeReggie-Witten's record? And Ms. DeReggie-Witten, why do you believe you can do a better job than Mr. Stalzer?
You're going to make this contentious. So I do not know all of Delia's record, I have to admit. So I can't really talk specifically to what her record was and what I would do better about it. I really don't, as I said in my beginning statement, that I'm not really here to advance some sort of program. I'm really here to put forward more of a, let's call it a common sense approach to some of the chaos that goes on now. So I can't speak specifically to what's going on there. That's my only answer to that.
Well, I had to go back to a question before because the word sewer was mentioned, and I always end up talking about sewers for some reason. It's a really good line at parties. But I was proud to say that we have started sewering Seacliff. We were able to obtain over $2 million to sewer the main street, the main commercial street in Seacliff. And I know a lot about sewers now, but there's a gravity line that goes from the corner of that down to the sewage treatment plant, which is in Glen Cove. And a gravity line is good because you can hook up other streets. So we have already hooked up a good portion of that area. Seacliff, actually, Nassau County, 90% of it is sewered, and out of the 10% that isn't, 90% is in District 11. So that's been our goal, but I really have worked hard with the village administrations, and we're on our way to sewering Seacliff. I think, people ask me sometimes, like, why I'm running again, and I want to say that I have a few more projects that I would really like to see come to completion. I feel that I've met the needs of many different aspects of my community, especially like Manor Haven. We really redid Manor Haven. It was a $6 million project. That place has turned around completely. I have an excellent staff. Tony Kessel's my legislative aide. We answer every phone call. We really put our time in. I'm out like 5-6 nights a week. And, it's my full-time job, and I love it. And, I am very appreciative of the opportunity to have it.
Thank you. Ms. DeRidge-Witten, what allocations in the county budget do you think should be reduced or eliminated, and what would you increase?
Well, it's interesting. Every time we do the budget, there's something that comes up, and that's the Department of Social Services and everything that really pertains to kids and seniors and drug addiction and after-school. Those programs are not mandated. So every year they're very vulnerable, and every year they are the first ones on the table to be cut. It's pretty arduous. So as far as communicating, we do have a newsletter that I do quarterly, and it goes to every household, and I really put a lot of time and effort into it. It does update everyone on different projects, different legislation, all sorts of issues. It takes a lot of work, and I'm always happy when someone says they read it and not just threw it out. We also, we have our information is always available. I agree with you with the county website that it could be updated more regularly, but my contact information is there, and again, if anyone ever has any questions, or I would love to, I'm always interested in hearing what constituents think, if any problems you know of. I talk about sewers. I got a call that there was a backup, and I was right with the DPW commissioner, so it was addressed like within 5 minutes, which was pretty amazing. So again, I think we really do try to be out there a lot. It's really it's a pretty demanding schedule, but I'm always open to any suggestions, and I hope everyone feels free to contact me if there's ever anything.
How much time on average do you expect to spend, or do you spend on this job? And what's the minimum time per week that seems like it's enough?
So I no longer have another job. This is my full-time job, and it really is 7 days a week. And I'm out, I try to limit it to like 4 to 5 nights a week. The hearings can go Monday and Tuesday. We had a budget and a committee hearings. I know I was in 20 hours of meetings within the first 2 days of my week. And those meetings are pretty long at times, but it's all what you put into it. And I know some legislators that have other full-time jobs, and they seem to be able to manage it, but I really feel that it requires full-time. Even though it's not a full-time job, you only get half credit, but half, whatever they call it, half credit. So, but I treat it as a full-time job, and even if we go away for a weekend or something, I always have my phone, I always have my emails, I'm always checking everything to my husband's chagrin. But so hourly, it's hard to say, but I can tell you it's a real commitment if you want to do it right. And I really feel that that's what it takes. So.
So I do have a full-time job. So I work as an environmental scientist for PSEG at the time being. The concept is that these committee meetings, which start sometimes in the afternoon at 1, I believe, if I'm correct.
This is before.
Yeah, before. So my plan is to take a lot of vacation time to attend these meetings. These are late night things that go on for a lot of time, and luckily these days with the advent of cell phones and other media for contacting, I feel that that can be handled through the day. Also, my wife of over 25 years is a real estate broker, and her job takes her from whatever time it is, 6 in the morning until midnight sometimes. And so we're kind of used to the fact that long days are there, and they're going to stay with us. And luckily, both our children are out of the house, so I don't have to actually deal with that kind of concept anymore. So I believe that the job can be done expeditiously.
Mr. Stalzer, the current administration has done just about nothing regarding the reassessment of our homes in Nassau County. Why?
Oh, so that's a good question. The assessment going through, the former county executive actually was trying to do something with the assessment, but she did more of an evaluation rather than an assessment of properties. So the current reassessment aspect is that if you grieve your properties, you're going to get sort of a reduction in your property tax liabilities. And if you don't grieve it, you probably pay more than you're supposed to, or you pay more than your neighbor who did grieve them, right, if you have the same valuation of your house. I do not know the intricacies of what that is, why it hasn't happened. And that would be something that I would definitely look at because I think there should be a more fair assessment of everybody's house on a house-by-house basis. And with the technologies we have today, I think that could be accomplished.
Yeah, well, right now, we don't have an assessor in Nassau County, and our roll is frozen. So it's in a very precarious situation, because the longer you don't look at the roll and you don't fix the roll, the worse the scenario is going to be. It was frozen under the Mangano administration, and now it's frozen under the Blakeman administration. Laura Curran did try to, she addressed it. I agree that it was done in a way that I didn't agree with. It was a reevaluation, which meant they took each school district. So each school district was still remaining whole, but some neighborhoods, it was called the neighborhood factor. Some neighborhoods went up, some neighborhoods went down, but when you looked at different places like Seacliff, it didn't make sense. Some of the homes on the water went down, and some of the homes near DPW went up. It just, I don't think it was done right. We have put money in. I voted to, we hired actually a company that is supposed to be very good at doing the home-by-home evaluation, so we approved that contract. They're not being used. We also bought simple things like drones, believe it or not, that can fly over homes and do the basic outdoor scan. It's not inside, but it's outside, so you could tell if there's an addition or new siding, really just by drones. So I think we absolutely have to go house by house and get a good roll, but the first thing you have to do is hire an assessor, which we do not have in Nassau County. It's unbelievable to me. I don't even know how they're signing off on the rolls, because if you read the charter, it's supposed to be, the rolls are supposed to be signed off by a confirmed assessor.
How can we attract more businesses to Nassau County? Ms. Derisiewicz.
Okay, sorry. Listen, it's always a big challenge. I found it very satisfying in Manor Haven Boulevard once we really cleaned up the sidewalks and the road, and we addressed the parking situation and the flooding situation. There has been a tremendous growth with businesses in Manor Haven. I see the same thing with Glen Cove. We're constantly working to try to bring new businesses in, and Seacliff is doing pretty well. They could always do better. But one thing that I really think should be pushed on for this county executive is the almost $300 million. I think it's $100 million that's sitting in his account, which he's touting as his high reserve fund. That money could really go out and help small businesses. Any business that was in existence during COVID it qualifies for grants, and it's up to us really to give them out. We gave out so many of them. I worked with the bid in Port Washington. We went door to door and gave everyone the information. People didn't trust the process because they thought it was a loan. It wasn't. It was a grant. And then one Italian restaurant in Glen Cove was so surprised that they got the check. They couldn't believe it when I walked in. They were so excited. But that's what that money should be used for, to help our businesses that are here already that are struggling and not sitting in an account. And as far as attracting new businesses, I think the more we work on our infrastructure and our downtowns, the more businesses will want to come in.
I agree with the fact that infrastructure is very important for businesses to push forward. So throughout areas of Nassau County, to attract businesses, not outside legislative district 11 is the South Shore, I think, has seen a lot of businesses be under distress and or go out of business, and that's because of infrastructure and flooding issues and those kind of things that really make it difficult for them to push forward. If I didn't know about the grant money, but I think that's a great idea to have available to different businesses, particularly small businesses within the county, to keep them vibrant and moving forward.
Mr. Stalzer, overdose deaths are increasing in Nassau County. What can you do, if elected county legislator, to address this? Or is this something that individuals should do for themselves?
Well, both. So I really do believe that the pandemic was a big contributor to individuals' despair, if you were, or whatever other psychological things that they might be going through that caused them to go into these mind-altering substances, whether it be opioids or alcohol, a whole bunch of different aspects that are going on with that. Those things really have to be handled. It's a societal issue. So what the government can do is provide, I think, assistance to the individuals and those organizations which can help those individuals, rehabilitation centers and other things like that these people really need, and to give them an avenue to get there. The opioid thing is more, I think, a problem because of the fentanyl that's being put into, I guess, everything now, and which is really a killer to everybody. A person who first tries this drug, they're going to die because there's fentanyl in it they can't handle. So I think the county funding for organizations that can help those individuals is important. I also believe individuals really have to take a responsibility for themselves, although if you're a drug addict, that's not always viable.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is, the opioid money that was awarded to the county came from the pharmaceutical companies. We received I think it was $72 million approximately. And it's not a grant, it's not refunding, it's money that we can use to address this issue. We're also expecting another $30 million from CVS in the near future. We have a hospital right down on Hempstead Turnpike, which is almost bankrupt, Nassau Community Medical Center. There are, I'm trying to get the exact number of floors that are vacant right now. We have the opportunity to take some of that money, not all of it, but some of it, and really making the state-of-the-art rehabilitation center, which is so needed right now. There are times when I get calls from parents, and we've had one at 2 a.m, and I was downstairs trying to find a bed, and there were no beds available. So some people that want treatment, when you get them, when you have a child, I have such respect for these parents that deal with these children, but when you have that window, you need to have the services available. And I would strongly suggest using a good portion of that money to use Nassau Community Nassau Community Medical Center, and they could keep them there for longer than the 28 days that insurance pays for. The other thing is I submitted legislation that would require that fentanyl strips be placed in any Narcan strips. The current administration will not even hold a hearing on it. These strips cost $1 each. Think of how many we could buy. If you rub it against a pill, and the odds of it detecting if there's any fentanyl in that pill is almost 90%. It's not perfect, but it is the only tool we have. And unfortunately, as Mr. Stice said, a lot of people are overdosing that because they want to, or they even have a major drug issue. It's just they ran into fentanyl, and it's the only tool we have.
Thank you. We're going to get to a final question. We hear stories about Nassau County Jail or jails being overcrowded, particularly for young arrestees. How should this be addressed? Yes.
Well, I go to jail quite a lot, and I always love to tell my kids I'm going to jail today. My husband's also very proud of me when I do that. First of all, it's not overcrowded anymore. There aren't as many inmates there, but the ones that are there are usually there. Most people don't even know we have a jail. We have a jail in East Meadow, and the difference between jail and prison is jail is up to a year, prison is over a year, and they usually are sent somewhere upstate. I have been working on this jail for the whole time I've been ranking on the Public Safety Committee. I'm happy to say it's gotten a lot better. As far as we fixed the HVAC system, they really, it sounds simple, but they initiated programs that just the color of the cells, the cleanliness of it. I've been up and down that building. It's really improving. There are these classes that the inmates can take that it's kind of like AA, where they're sort of run by the inmates, but they're overseen by other, by the correction officers. It's really come a long way. I'm proud to say they have church there. I've gone to their Christmas Eve, and it was just real quick, but it was in a Spanish mass that I went to because I missed the other one, and they all come in and they're all so tough, but once they started playing the Christmas songs, you just saw them starting to cry and so I think, improving services, improving any kind of help we can give them. And I also am a big proponent of the correction officers getting whatever kind of mental health help that they need also.
So jail inmates, I'm going to assume, are also going to be part of this drug epidemic that is going through every community on the island and the state and the country. So it's good to hear that that's what is happening there, and I think that's a good aspect. It's also nice to hear that the population has decreased some, I guess is which is really good, because we don't need a Rikers Island in Nassau County. Other than that, I really don't know enough about the jail situation to comment about what's happening within the jail. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. All right, before we take closing statements, I want to remind everyone that Election Day is Tuesday, November 7th, at your regular voting place. Early voting again begins on Saturday, October 28th, and runs through Sunday, November 5th. A recording of this forum will be available on the League of Women Voters of Port Washington-Manhasset YouTube within 24 hours. And please mark your calendars for October 19th, when we will hold a forum here again for the receiver of taxes and town supervisor. Okay, so now to closing statements. Please offer applause to both candidates for their willingness to answer your questions tonight together on stage after each candidate's closing statement. You'll have 2 minutes. Mr. Rajiwin.
Well, thank you again to the League and everyone for coming out. And I want to say just a little bit about myself. I probably should have mentioned this in the beginning, but I'm married and I have 3 daughters and 1 stepson. I grew up from Manhattan, but my parents came out to Long Island when I was young, so I've been in the area for almost all of my life. I went to Hofstra. And personally, my oldest daughter was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and that's been my passion. Actually, your wife comes to my dinner, and we've had dinners for 17 years, and we've raised over $1 million, which is it's really part of who I am. And, you know, sometimes when you've kind of had a few challenges in your own life, it prepares you to handle constituents. I was also a single mom for 10 years, so I really understand a lot of what these people go through, and I know how close to the line a lot of people live. I also believe in institutional knowledge. It's taken me a long time to understand how this county works. There are so many different integral, departments and this and that, and it takes a long time to understand most of it. And I think it's an asset to have that experience. And again, it is my only job. It's my full-time job. It's a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week job. And I enjoy it. I feel very blessed to have had the opportunity to serve this district, and I hope to continue for the future that I can see. Thank you.
So instead of talking about how great I am, I'm going to give you guys a quick story that I've heard from somebody else, so I'm assuming it's true. This is about Tip O'Neill. Some of you may remember him as the Speaker of the House way back when, but he was running for office, councilman in Boston from his Irish district in Boston, and he lost twice, and he ran the 3rd time and won. And he was coming home after the celebration of his winning to be councilman, and it passed his next-door neighbor's house, and Mrs. O'Leary was, I made that name up, by the way. She was sitting outside on her porch, and Tip O'Neill goes to Mrs. O'Leary. He goes, "I won. Aren't you proud of me?" And she goes, "Yes, I'm very proud of you." And he goes, "Did you vote for me?" And she said, "No." And Tip O'Neill says, "Why did you not vote for me? Your younger daughter babysat for me when I was a kid. Your daughter now, your older daughter is dating my brother, and we've been neighbors for 20 years. And, why didn't you vote for me?" And she said, "Well, you never asked." So the moral of the story is I'm asking for your vote. Thank you very much.
Candidates, the League appreciates your willingness to participate in this forum, and you've answered the questions thoughtfully and candidly, and we appreciate your commitment and salute you for running to serve in public office. And we would also like to thank the audience for their very thought-provoking questions. It's really helping further democracy, and we appreciate you all for coming. We have our next forum will be in 5 minutes. Thanks again.
Welcome, everyone, to our third candidate forum for this evening. If you'll all please take your seats so we can begin.
Hello.
Our next forum will be for Council District Number 4. Christine Liu has joined us, and Mr. Jim Gounaris.
Thank you.
And in a moment, as soon as everybody is seated, our moderator will be set to begin. Our moderator for the evening is Dorothy Schwetzka. We have a vetters table over there, just to be sure we don't have duplicate questions and that the questions are delivered in a timely manner. People have been walking through, members of our league to collect them in a basket, but if you have a question and you prefer to bring it up and put it in the basket, we would appreciate it. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay? This is really fun. All right. The forum we're about to start is for the town of North Hempstead Council District 4. Just so you know who you're here to hear it from. Thank you for attending. And good evening. For over a century, the League of Women Voters has sought to make democracy work by holding events like this so that voters can hear the views and observe the behavior of candidates on a range of issues relevant to your community. That's why we ensure that all candidates agree to the debate procedures. Further, by being here today, you're also agreeing to those procedures. The League has used procedures like this for over 60 years to ensure a fair process and encourage civil discourse. Reading the rules is going to take me about 3.5 minutes, so please bear with me. I'm not such a New Yorker that I can speed talk my way through this. The moderator will be a member of the League of Women Voters from outside the district. I live in Port Washington, not Great Neck, and that area. Candidates' opening statements will be determined by drawing lots before in-person events. The same order will be used for opening and closing statements. Tonight, Mr. Gounaris will be going first. Each candidate will be allowed 3 minutes for an opening statement. After each candidate has spoken, I'll open the meeting for questions. Cards will be handed out. They're available for written questions. In all cases, the moderator will be the final arbiter of whether questions should be answered. Questions must not be duplicative, personal, or abusive. Each candidate will be given 1.5 minutes to answer each question. At the moderator's discretion, the time for a response may be reduced so long as it's the same for everyone. There will be no rebuttals. Questions may be addressed to a specific candidate or to candidates in general, although both candidates will be given an opportunity to answer any question that's addressed to a specific individual. The moderator will attempt to rotate the order of responses for each question, and if I miss you, just give me a sign. A league member will act as timekeeper. Tonight, this is my good friend Marie Bellon. 1/2 minute from the end of each given time period. The timekeeper will alert the speaker by a prearranged signal, Marie's, showing you the 30-second warning and the stop sign. Candidates who ignore time signals may have their speaking time reduced and those not violating the rules may be given extra time. Candidates will have 2 minutes for a closing statement. Since the purpose of this meeting is to determine the candidate's views, no substitute for the physical presence of the candidate will be allowed should a candidate be unable to attend. No written or recorded statement may be provided in lieu of active participation by a candidate. Forums require 2 or more candidates for each seat to be present. The use of props, charts, visuals, and the displays of campaign collateral or apparel is prohibited. In accordance with league policy, audio or video recording by authorized members of the media will be permitted only if all the candidates present agree. The league maintains the right to record the forum and publish it on league-controlled electronic pages. No other recording will be allowed. No partial transcript or recording may be published without written permission from the league. Both candidates have agreed to comply with these rules, and now you in the audience are also agreeing with them by being present. Like you, we're here today because we believe that citizenship requires both knowledge and civic engagement, and that the responsibility of maintaining good government rests on the shoulders of citizens. That's everyone here. So we have expectations of you. Please be sure your cell phones or electronic devices are turned off or silenced, and please do not block the doors or the camera. Your purpose is to hear from candidates, so let's focus on their voices, not yours. Please remain seated and silent during the Q&A. As moderator, I will stop the debate if the audience interruptions reduce the time for candidates to speak, and we're here to listen to them. To repeat, league policy permits only authorized recordings of these forums. Taking clips or segments is not authorized. The league is recording this forum and will post it on the League of Women Voters of Port Washington-Manhasset YouTube channel before the election tonight, if we can. Any audience member who violates the agreed procedures for the forum or disrupts the forum by ignoring these audience expectations after being warned may be asked to leave. We thank you for being here and being here to learn more about each candidate who seeks to represent you. So with that, we are now ready for the opening statements, and Mr. Gounaris, I hope I got it right, will go first.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming tonight. It's a pleasure to be here. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this together and for organizing it in such a beautiful, peaceful place. I've been here before as a audience member, and it's an honor to be here as a candidate for the town of North Hempstead's new Council District 4. I'm a resident of the New Hyde Park area since 1999. I'm married. I have 4 children. I've put my children through the entire Herrick school system. I'm proud of the education that they've received there. When my wife and I moved in, we became very active in the PTA and continued volunteering in the community in a variety of different levels, including the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, different athletic associations, New Hyde Park Wildcats, and the Little League. In 2011, I decided to run for the Herrick School Board. I thought I could lend a hand and be a useful voice for all the residents and all the students in the community. I won that election. I've been proud to be on the school board since that time. I'm in my 13th year. I'm also completing I'm in my fourth year as the current president of the Herrick School Board. I'm proud of the work that we have done with regards to inclusion, with regards to our investments in our student programs, in the type of way we deliver education to all students, regardless of their ability to learn. Every student deserves a fair and equitable education, and they should get it, regardless of the challenges that they may have. I'm also proud of the fact that we realized the changing demographics of our community, and as we did that, we decided to show our respectfulness of the different demographics in the group, and we added the Lunar New Year holiday as well as the 2 Eids and the Diwali holidays. We felt that if our community had changed and the demographics had changed, so should our school calendar, and we did so. Beyond this, I have served the town in a variety of different ways. I've served on the Clinton G. Martin Pool Renovation Committee. I was asked to serve on the Nassau County Police Commissioners Community Council. I was one of its founding members, and I'm honored at the fact that I helped to manage a $130 million school budget in one of the most successful school districts on all of Long Island. I welcome and thank you all for coming again.
Thank you, Mr. Gounaris, and Ms. Liu, it's yours.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Christine Liu, but before I begin, I just want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this wonderful candidate forum and for the incredible work that you do in getting everybody involved and participating in this democratic process. So thank you so much. So by way of background, I'm a former attorney for the Department of Homeland Security. I loved my job at Homeland, and I was there for several years. But after having my second child, work-life balance became a bit difficult, so we decided that I would stay home and raise my children full-time, and that's when we moved to New Hyde Park. So once my kids started kindergarten, I immersed myself into the PTA, which probably for many of us was like our second career, right? We met so many people there, built wonderful relationships, and headed so many committees and had a great time. And then that led to other things, like being a Girl Scout troop leader or coaching Little League for softball and for baseball. And then an opportunity arose where I co-founded the Herrick's Chinese Association, where we coordinate the Lunar New Year program for the school district, in which it's free to the community and over 1,000 people attend every year. And through that process and community work, that's where our former town supervisor, Judy Bosworth, she found me and she asked if I would join her Asian American Advisory Council. And at the same time, Nassau County also asked me to join their advisory council, and I gladly accepted both because I wanted to be that bridge in the community between us in the community and also our town governments. So in doing all of that, that's when your Assemblywoman, Gina Solitti, also found me, and she asked that I join her staff as her community liaison, which I also gladly accepted and have been doing since she's elected. So in me as a candidate, you'll find I have the legal experience, I have the government background, and the community service and leadership. So with all that, I would like to tell everybody that as town council person, I will do this position full time. I've already told Assemblywoman Solitti, who is a bit sad, that I would resign from my position
in her office if elected. And also, I cut back my hours already to 2 days a week only so that I can devote myself to the community even more so. Then, as Herrick's Chinese Association president, I did recently step down once I decided that I was running so that there would be no appearance or conflicts of interest at all, and that I can devote more time to the community. So, with me as a candidate and with me as town council, you know that I will be working for this community full time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Liu. And now, we're ready for some questions and answers. We're going to shake up the order. You're going to go first, okay? And then we'll alternate after that. Here's the first question. What is your opinion on constructing large buildings on the waterfront? Ms. Lowe, you're up first.
So, with all things, I believe that we need to have a good discussion with the community. I don't believe that we should do anything in closed doors between developers or council members or of any nature. Everything should be transparent. If there's a developer that wants to develop on the waterfront, then we should see if the residents and the community members would like something like that. And so we should have a dialogue. That's what this is about. As town council person, we have to listen to our residents. I would invite the residents from the community. We could have a public hearing about it. We can have presentations from the developers and the architects and those of our planning engineers and traffic engineers to see if this is something that the community wants and whether it is feasible. The infrastructure, if it can handle it. There's a lot of, I guess, perspectives that we have to look at. So it's not that I would say no to a development or a yes to a development, but we have to take everybody's voices into consideration, and then we can move forward together. And that's what I would do as town council person. Thank you.
Mr. Gounaris.
So in Long Island, and especially in the town of North Hempstead, we've been struggling to try and reclaim our waterfronts through years of industrial use and overdevelopment. We depleted many of the resources that we've had there. And it seems to always wind up being that the people who want to develop the waterfront properties are not developing them for people of modest incomes. It's for those who have the extra money to spend. And it's important that we find a balance if we're going to do some sort of development, whether it's on the water or not, that we find a balance that becomes affordable for everybody. As we bring all the stakeholders together to have a discussion about a development or a program or a process, we need to make sure that the environmental balance is protected at the same time. Like Christine said, you know, what are the infrastructure needs? What can it handle? What can we do? And how can we make it better? And how do we maybe find a way to build it in a way that is friendlier to the environment and provide more access to those waterways as opposed to less access by blocking them off to the residents who don't live there?
Okay, thank you. Our next question is, how do you feel about book banning in public libraries and schools, pushes for parental controls to fire teachers and administrators, and restrictions on free speech? What would you do as a council member? Mr. Gounaris, you have this first.
So I'm not really sure how a council member would actually legislate that, because that is not something that I believe the town of North Hempstead Council does. But it does stretch through the problem with hate and intolerance. I believe books should be offered to students who are mature enough to handle those topics. I don't believe people should be forced to read anything or participate in anything that they're not comfortable doing with whatever their home and whatever their private and their family life dictates. Because the most important part of learning is love and tolerance, and that happens at home. And to just go out and try and fire a teacher or ban a book, we know what banning books did and how it started and what went on in World War II. We understand the ramifications of that. But I think we're in a different place now because the internet allows all those books into people's homes anyway. So the right way, I believe, to do that would be to use education to let them understand what the book is about. It's appropriate for their age. Maybe sometimes definitely consulting with the parents to make sure that they are okay with what's going on. We do that in the Herrick School District when it comes to health education, when they're ending their elementary school time before they go to middle school with parental consent. So that's what I believe. Thank you.
Ms. Liu?
Thank you. Actually, when I went door knocking in the Great Neck area, one of the first things I realized that you have to know whether you're for book banning or against book banning at the doors. Even though Jim is right, you know, us as town council members, we don't have the jurisdiction over these libraries, but people want to know. And so I am against book banning, okay? So that's first and foremost. But I do believe parents have the right to monitor and decide what their kids read and watch and what they do online. So parents have their rights, but I believe I am against book banning. As opposed, the other question was about firing teachers? Is that what you
Well,
said?
that was another element of it, yes.
There was-
It was parental control to fire teachers and administrators.
Okay.
And restrictions on free speech.
So education is very important, and that's why we moved to this area. Well, that's why we moved to Long Island, because we want to give our kids a better education in this area. So parents do have a say in their child's education, and if there are concerns with the teacher, I believe that they can voice those opinions and bring those concerns up to administrators or even up to the Board of Ed. But that is where the board or the administrators then make their decision. But of course, parents have the right to bring up their concerns, and then the school will make their decision.
Thank you. All right. Our next question is, since neither of you has served in this office, you're both running, have you attended town meetings prior to deciding to run? And for how long has that been your practice? Ms. Liu, you have the question first.
Thank you. So I had a number of chances to attend the town hall meetings, and usually they were about things that I was more passionate about. When there was the recreational sale of marijuana or dispensaries in certain areas, and so we made sure to voice our concerns at that time. And I remember it was a very heated but very good discussion about it, and I was very happy with how the town board listened to our concerns, and they decided on their policy for the town. So I was very proud to be there and representing our community as well. Thank you.
Mr. Gounaris.
So I've attended town board meetings on and off for 15 years. I find that when you go to the town board meetings, you learn a lot about a lot of things that are going on in other parts of the town that you don't know about. And you get to hear the voices of a lot of the residents in the beginning talking about a variety of different things. Cat shelters, dog shelters, stop signs, issues at streets. And it's wonderful to see that. I think the advent of live streaming the town board meetings has been a help for people to see what goes on during the meetings. It's not always pretty, but sometimes government isn't pretty. But at least we try and get the job done. I thoroughly enjoyed many of the discussions that just took place with regards to a Sikh temple that was trying to be, a piece of property is trying to be changed into a Sikh temple. And appreciate the fact that the community came out, the members of the temple came out, and they tried to understand each other and what each other's concerns are. And I think the community coming together that way provided that. And I think the town board meeting, there were plenty of people who were not happy with what the decision was at the end. But I think that sometimes is what government does. Sometimes the best deal is not everyone is happy, not everyone is sad either.
Fair enough. All right. Given the worsening climate crises and the vulnerability of District 4, or vulnerabilities, plural, of District 4, how do you plan to address resiliency and sustainability? And that question goes first to you, Mr. Gounaris.
So I'm not sure the question, what the vulnerabilities are specifically in the question. I think it's a little general. So if there's something specific that they find vulnerable, I would like to hear that. Do you know what that would mean, vulnerabilities in general? No, I know what the word means. I mean, is there a specific item that's vulnerable is what I'm saying. So I'll just go off a couple of things. I believe the town and we all need to figure out a way how to protect our environment. And I think we need to figure out a way how to protect our water systems, both the water coming in and the water going out, how we wind up balancing our electric use and the use of fossil fuels. I think it's important for us to all understand that the town was built hundreds of years ago, and the capacity of the town now, the population of the town now, versus what was planned for the town are two different things. So I think it's important that the town find a long-range plan to address infrastructure issues and how do we make it better for the next generation who are going to live in our town. I think that's the important part. I think we're vulnerable on many aspects of our resources, and we need to protect them in a better way.
I think now more than ever, we've had record temperatures, rising sea levels, and these severe storms that are really negatively impacting our Long Island area. I think just last week, we saw some damaging flooding in our community. Our shorelines are eroding, and our overburdened grids during these heat waves are causing us millions of dollars of hardship and a lot of mental anguish. I know for some residents, whenever they see that there's going to be heavy rain, they are anxiety-filled because they are thinking about the possibility of flooding in their homes again. So I support the efforts of New York State and their goals for a cleaner future, and through my leadership as town council person, I would help our residents better understand how they can implement simple changes in their homes and in their communities, like solar panels, the benefits of that, composting, and even maybe in the town adding bike lanes to make our carbon footprint a little bit less here. So we can all be part of the solution. And I think that's what we need to do as a town to see where we can draw together and see how we can find a solution and have a lesser imprint in our community and how we can have a greener future together. Thank you.
All right. Our next question goes in a different direction. Town of North Hempstead has the highest debt per capita statistic compared to 4 other neighboring towns. How do you plan to be fiscally prudent for the town of North Hempstead? And Ms. Liu, the question goes to you first.
So to be fiscally responsible means that we have to have a balanced budget. And actually, the supervisor and the town board cut our budget, cut taxes by 5% last year. But this year, she would like to cut 10% in our new budget. And the interesting thing is how we realize you cut taxes, where is that money coming from, right? Where are we cutting from? If your operating expenses are still the same, if not more, and you haven't decreased services anywhere, where is that money coming from? And that money is coming from our savings, which is our reserves. And although we have a windfall of reserves right now because of COVID, we had an increase in sales taxes, we had an increase in mortgage tax, because a lot of people bought homes here, and also the building department generated a lot of revenue because people were renovating and submitting building permits. So we have a $15 million windfall in the last 2 years. And the supervisor and my opponent would like to cut taxes further by 10%. And how we normally do that in a household, if your weekly food budget is $100 and you are now only having $90 to pay for that, and you're going to go every time into your savings account to do that, we then know you're going to be depleting savings. And those savings are for a rainy day or for if your car broke down, but not to pay for your expenses. And so we need to be fiscally responsible. I understand that there is a windfall, but we still have to be fiscally responsible because, let's say 2 or 3 years down the line, do we then need to increase our taxes and have a tax hike in order to recoup those cuts that we've made now? So we have to think about that. Thank you.
Mr. Gounaris.
Okay. So year after year, the town kept raising our town taxes. And year after year, they kept putting more and more money into the reserves. Our reserves have a figure of about 40% of what is needed, over what is needed for the town to have. And we need to find a way to better tax our residents. If we're just raising taxes on the residents and we're not using that money for anything and we're just collecting more and more money and putting it aside, well, then why are we collecting the money if we have ample enough money in our reserves? My 13 years on the Herrick School Board, we appropriate a school tax every year, and the voters vote on that budget. The budget is expense-based, and we know what we have to tax. But over 13 years, with myself on the school board and my colleagues, we've decided to return $14 million back to the residents in rebates because we had excess funds at the end after we funded our reserves, and we were able to tax every resident that much less the following year in a sense of a rebate. If that's the case, I believe I would like to follow that model for the town. And we should make sure our expenses that we go through the town are clear and transparent as they are for the school district. And that would be my goal, to be able to really bring full transparency on the tax basis for our residents.
Thank you. Our next question is, how do you stay in touch with and understand different minority groups in the community? And the question goes first to you.
That's me?
Yes.
So I've had the honor of being on the school board for so many years, and I attend meetings quite frequently. And I have a variety of different friends from different ethnic and racial backgrounds who are in the school district. And it's interesting to know how their lives work, their families work, what their needs are, and how we always share these common goals with everybody. We're looking to find a better way to educate our children to be more respectful, to find a way to have our children go to college and live a great life and move forward. And we do that by sharing our common goals and staying in touch with them, talking with them, meeting with them. The school board has provided me an extra avenue to be able to stay in touch and to keep in touch with different communities. On the school board, we are always looking for people to come to our meetings and talk to us about different things going on. And on a personal level, through my friends network and some of these friends in my area who have now become family, we always know the pulse of the people, we always understand, and we try and do a good job to really deliver for them what the needs are for their community.
Sorry, can you repeat that question?
Surely. All I have to do is find it again. How do you stay in touch with and understand different minority groups in the community?
Oh, thank you. So That is something that I really enjoy doing in our community. We always have open discussions and dialogues of how to bring the community together. And we have a lot of diversity panels. Recently, I was asked to join the diversity panel in Belmore and also here in New Hyde Park, and just bringing people of different backgrounds together to share their stories. That is the culture that I would try to emulate at Town Council, everybody having a seat at the table, regardless of your ideals and beliefs, but we need to educate and share each other's cultures and beliefs together. And that's how we can build up mutual respect and diversity and embrace it. I remember this wonderful program that I did help to coordinate with the JCC and the Assemblywoman's Office. It was to bring together Asian and Jewish students to share each other's cultures and their stories, and it was walking in someone else's shoes. And through that, you can see that the students understanding what the other culture is going through or the other students are going through and helpful that was, that just built a mutual respect between them, and they wanted to have more of these workshops together. So that's what I would like to do, is to consistently bring students, parents, community leaders all together so that we can learn from one another. Thank you.
All right. Our next question is, in the event the position of supervisor is won by the candidate of a party opposite your own, how do you plan on working with them to accomplish needed work for the town and, more importantly, your district? And that question goes to you first, Ms. Liu.
Thank you. So I think that is something that is inevitable, right? There's going to be an outcome, and it may be the supervisor that is on your ticket or not, right? And we have to learn to work together. And a lot of people have asked, how do you work together with the other party? It's very simple. I always tell everybody, listen, what we do here is not about the party. It's about the people. It's about the residents in our community. These roads that we drive on, the lights that light up our streets, the parks that we play in, the pools that we swim in are not Republican and Democrat. They're shared by everybody in the community. So that's how I feel that when we are working together, we don't vote a certain way because that street belongs to everybody. If we fix the road, it helps everybody. If we renovate the pool, it helps everybody. So let's not be so divisive. Let's just get things done in the community. What's best for the community is how I'm going to vote and how I'm going to work together. And the other part of it is, it would be helpful if we didn't send all these negative mailers to each other or do all this negative advertising, because that puts up a divide already. Just run on your own record. Run on your own platform. You do not have to go negative against the other person, because you have to eventually, or maybe, work with them in the future. So let's build a relationship now together and just have a mutual respect for one another. Thank you.
Now, we said we wouldn't do that. Mr. Gounaris.
I've lived my entire life, almost 60 years, working with everybody on any side of the aisle, of any race, creed, color, religion. The only way we get to really ever be successful in this world is if we work together as a community. This is not about red or blue. This is about red, white, and blue. And we need to understand that we are here in the town all working for the greater good. And if there are people who are in need of something that needs to be fixed or voted on in the town, we need to fix it. This is not about who they voted for, what donation they made, and to who. This is about addressing the needs of the residents of the town of North Hempstead. No matter where they live, as a council member, we vote on all these items and making sure the town is working for them. They're paying the taxes. They're paying their way to have the town be responsive to them. And we should do that. And we should make sure we do that collectively, cooperatively, in a way that delivers the best government every resident should get, no matter who is imparting, no matter what the person is who's proposing the change or the resolution. Let's do the right thing for the people. There's enough squabbling going on in the rest of the world. We don't need it here in North Hempstead. We need to just work for ourselves and for each other to make sure we're all together as one.
Okay. Our next question is, the council member's job is very demanding. How will you manage to balance this job with your other commitments? And that goes to you first, Jim.
So I really believe I would not have put my hat in the ring to do this if I didn't think I wasn't capable of doing this job. I am an amazing multitasker, and I have people who call me frequently for help, for advice, and different things that I can do to help them, and I always will, and I always do. So I believe that the work of the town council is more than just being in an office all day. It's about being out, understanding the needs of the community, being able to have an ear for them to be heard with. Sometimes it's better not to talk, it's better to listen. And from there, you can craft a way to find a resolution for them. I have a full-time job. I am also president of the Herrick's Board of Education. Just to be clear, I have one job at Great Neck Public Schools, and I manage 2 departments. Why do I manage 2 departments? Because I'm an excellent manager. I give people the ability to do their job. We set levels of expectations, and they achieve them. I would expect the same for myself if I'm asking that for others, and I have no problem doing it. I'm reminded that Councilman Troiano works full-time at the Board of Education, and he too is school board president. And his community adores him and thinks he does a wonderful job, and I expect to have the same reputation because I believe I can be just as intelligent. I'm just as intelligent as he is. So thank you.
Ms. Liu.
Thank you. So I've already told everyone my commitment is I will be 100% full-time for this community. I will be resigning from my position with Assemblywoman Saliti and dedicating myself to this District 4. Thank you for explaining the roles that you have in Great Neck. You have 2 full-time positions there as head of food services and head of registrar. So it is physically not possible for you to be at all of these events or having office hours for when people want to come and speak with you, unless you want to take some calls between your 2 jobs at Great Neck to return some phone calls. It would be physically impossible for you to do what you need to do as town council person. So with that, but I'd also like to point out that we all knew that you were running for town council back in April, and you still decided to run for school board president in May. And you decided not just to complete your term, but you decided to run for a full 3-year term again. So you've got 2 jobs at Great Neck, running for town council, and on the school board for the next 3 years. It is going to be pretty hard to be serving this community with 100%. And I, on the other hand, have already laid down a lot of things in order to show my commitment to this community. Thank you.
Okay. We need, hang on for just one moment. Thank you. We're going to move on with a different question. All right. This one concerns the Plandome Road Business District. The Plandome Road Business District sewer project is underway. There are plans for the rest of the Bayview section of Manhasset to get sewers. Do you support this, and when do you expect to get going? That question is for you first, Ms. Liu.
So The sewer project is now for the downtowns, and that has been approved and that is moving forward. So this is for the rest of the Manhasset area. And that is, again, something that we have to speak to the civics about, to the residents about, to the community about. If they want to build sewers instead of having their septics, then that's something we have a community discussion about. It's not in my place to make a decision on my own or for the town board to make a decision without hearing their residents' concerns. Sometimes residents may have concerns about if we have sewers, that we'd be building larger apartment buildings, and maybe that's not something that the residents in Manhasset want. So I would be open to hearing the needs of the community, but Manhasset would be in the district of District 5 next year, and that would be Town Councilman David Adami, who actually is our town council person in District 4, if you didn't already know, and he is pretty busy. So I don't know if he'd be listening to the needs of his community, but I would, even if that is not my jurisdiction or not in my district, I would still value those who come before us and have the needs and concerns of that community in mind. And I would reach out to also the planning developers and the architects to see if this infrastructure is something of a possibility for our town residents. Thank you.
Mr. Gounaris.
I think putting the sewers in is an important way of protecting Manhasset Bay. We are spending a lot of money trying to, Councilman Dalimonte, to put in all these oysters into the oyster beds. And a lot of the sewage runoff goes right into the bay, and we're kind of fighting each other. But I agree with the process of trying to bring in all the stakeholders and figure out how do we put these sewers in a cost-effective way, and how do we make sure that we do it in a way that protects our environment while still helps the residents and the businesses in that area from getting off these cesspools and whatever they have to do to be able to remove their waste. It's important when we face projects and questions like this that the stakeholders come together, the environmentalists come together, and the planning department comes together, and we figure out what is the best plan forward for these types of projects. I almost think at some point we need to have a master plan for the town, especially for its shorelines, because it's important that we protect our shorelines and leave this for our children to be able to use and the next generation. And we haven't really done the greatest job, and we're working to that. But sewer projects and everything help to protect that. And it's important that as we go to move forward, we get this type of long-range planning done. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is, do you have an opinion on the use of Industrial Development Agency in building rental buildings? That's the question.
So the IDA does that already in a variety of ways. And they do it pretty successfully. They take a piece of land that is not really generating much of a tax generation for a town or a school district, and then they offer some sort of tax break to a developer to be able to build this housing. And that tax break goes through what the property taxes would be for the owner of that property in an effort to offset the cost of construction. I'm not opposed to the thought process. What always seems to get me is when they do that for a school district like they could do for ours. Our residents in the Herrick School District, for example, or the Great Neck School District, or New Hyde Park or Manhasset, they're all shareholders in this school district's budget. And if you put the piece of property on the books and it can generate tax income, but the IDA overrides the vote of the taxpayers and says, we're going to give you a tax break to build this, and we don't see the return on those taxes, that IDA return on the taxes for 10 to 15 or 20 years, depending on the structure, it kind of puts the school district at a little bit of a challenge on how we would manage that. So I think the IDA and the municipalities really should work a little bit more closer together on the types of development they would like to plan and how it would affect it, and maybe they would do it in a way that it would be for senior housing or low-income housing, and that would have a less dramatic effect on the tax burden for the residents sending their children to those schools, you know, during that time.
Ms. Liu?
Building rental apartment units, we have to be very sensitive to the community. We have to see if the infrastructure would allow it, or if the community would even want it, and we have to look at the zoning laws and the guidelines to see if that is even allowed. So, again, we have to take the pulse of the community and our residents. Regardless if developers want to come in, whether there's tax incentives or not, we still have to, first and foremost, reach out to our community and the stakeholders there and work together. Sometimes it may work out and sometimes it doesn't, but most importantly, we have to look at our local government. You know, recently, it's not recently, this past year, there's a whole housing plan that Governor Hochul was trying to implement here in many areas and also in Long Island. And the plan there was to try to build more housing because of a housing crisis. But the problem was it was taken out of our local control. And I think that was the biggest mistake ever. We need to have control over how our community looks and how it's shaped and what is developed here. And so I do think that we have to have a master plan, a vision for the town of North Hempstead. And there are grants to do feasibility studies and visionary planning, and that's exciting work, actually, you know, to see where we would like our town to be in the next 10 years and how to develop it. And so whether it's a developer or whether it's, you know, this kind of development, we need to have a master plan for our town, and if it's aligned with it, and if the community wants it, and the stakeholders are happy with it, then we work together. If not, then it should not. Thank you.
Next question is, please outline your vision for improving services for older adults in the town. And that question goes to you first, Christine.
I love spending time with our seniors. That's one of the delights of my heart. I visited seniors at Clinton G. Martin, at Tully Park, at the Great Neck Social Center, at the synagogues, all over our town. In fact, for Mother's Day, I gave them carnations, and they were so appreciative. And for Father's Day, I didn't leave out the dads. We gave out little candy treats. And listening to them and their stories, a lot of them are saying that they don't have many housing options. We need to expand our housing options for seniors, as well as them mentioning that their kids can't really afford to move back to our neighborhood here because they're getting priced out. So they also mention a lot of different programs that they would like to expand upon, including Fun Day Monday, maybe Terrific Tuesday, or Wacky Wednesday. They have lots of different ideas, and I loved hearing all of them. But in terms of expanding housing, for instance, I think we can look at other models, because the town does have low-income housing for them, but the wait list, I was actually talking to somebody today, it's about 3 to 5 years for some and up to 10 years for others. And you have to be 62 even to get on the wait list, so by the time you wait 10 years, it's a long time down the road. So I think that we can look to other towns, like the town of Oyster Bay that has golden age housing, where you can purchase affordable condos or co-ops in a senior community with amenities, and you don't have to sell your home. You can actually have your children perhaps move into your home and help you with the reduced co-op fees or maintenance fees each month. So there are different options that we'd be able to look into for our seniors, and I'd be happy to do that as town council person. Thank you.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Surely. please outline your vision for improving services for older adults in the town.
So first, I just want to go back to what you just said. It could be Terrific Tuesday, but I still think the seniors prefer Taco Tuesday. The seniors built our communities, and we have to find a way to make sure that they're not thrown out of their houses and lose their houses or have to leave their community. I believe the town has a variety of different parcels of land that we could probably look at and see about how would we redevelop them. It's part of this master plan for the town that I spoke of a little earlier. Where are our large swatches of land? Can they be used? What can they be used for? Can we build more affordable housing so that they could stay close to their community, stay close to their children, find a way for them to continue to flourish in the town through our Project Independence and other programs that we offer for seniors? I also think maybe we have to figure out a way to have the seniors be able to stay in their homes. A friend of mine told me of an idea about offering some sort of program, town-sponsored, for the seniors to be able to put the solar panels on their roofs. And that way they could generate their own electricity and save them on their LIPA bill. I met a woman as I was walking door to door who did that at her house. She pays $2 a month for electricity. I mean, if they didn't have to pay their electricity bill, maybe they would save $50, $60, $100 a month. That's a lot of money. So we need to be open-minded about plans and ideas and be more futuristic in how do we preserve those people who deserve to be preserved, who deserve to have a wonderful place to live and to remain in their communities.
Thank you. Our next question is going to be our final question for the evening, okay? And it is, what are your top 3 priorities if you were to get elected, and what do you see as the top concerns of your constituents? Mr. Gounaris.
I believe my 3 priorities are to relieve the tax burden on all the taxpayers in the town of North Hempstead. I believe we should figure out a way how to make the town run more efficiently, use their money in a more fiscally responsible way, and figure out how we can use their money to deliver services to them at Class A, full 100%. I'm not really sure that happens. I think in the times that we're facing right now, the current supervisor offering a 10% reduction in taxes is important. She offered 11% last year, but the town board decided to only give the residents back 5% of their money, not the 11% that she offered. And I think we need to keep into perspective, my priority is the tax money is the residents' money. We should treat it like it's their money, not ours. I also think we need to worry about the crime that is really rampant all over the place. Catalytic converters, these smash and grab things. The world is different, and we need to figure out a way to support our police and support our residents to make sure they feel more secure in the house, in their homes. And I just think that cooperation is my 3rd pillar. We need to be cooperative. We need to be collective. We need to work together as a community. C, it's all about C. Cutting taxes, cutting crime, and working collectively as a coalition and a community. Thank you.
Ms. Liu.
Thank you. My opponent has discussed a lot about cutting taxes, but as a school board member since 2011, not once has there been a tax cut. Not once has there been a flat tax. In fact, he's raised taxes by $16 million. And 70% of your taxes goes to the school district. So even though sometimes you may see a tax decrease in certain areas, but surely your tax bill is still increasing because of the taxes raised by the school district. So it's very hard for me to believe that you would be cutting taxes when you had the opportunity to since 2011 to do so. And you also mentioned that going into the reserves. I don't think as a school board member you would ever go into those reserves because you understand the importance of why we have these reserves. So my 3 goals would be to increase public safety and stand up and combat racism, anti-Semitism, and Asian hate whenever it rears its ugly head. Recently, we've seen an uptick in a lot of racial issues in our town, and our town's motto is "Not in our town." Hate has no place in our town, and I will stand up for all those in the community who are feeling marginalized or who have been attacked in any way, shape, or form. I work very closely with the police. I was on the phone with them today talking about different crime statistics. I've done safety workshops with them where they presented how to protect our homes, protect our property. So it's really important that we work together collaboratively with the police, and I've been doing so for a number of years. And I'd like to expand our senior housing options and programs, as well as revitalize our downtowns and businesses, because we need to bring our businesses back to full swing since COVID. Thank you.
All right. I believe we're ready to move on to closing statements, and the agreed-upon order is Mr. Gounaris goes first, and then Ms. Liu. So
And how much time?
you have 2 minutes.
2 minutes? Okay, so I'm just going to quickly mention a couple of things that were said that were 100% false. The Herrick School District has had a time where we raised, our tax increase was 0. Our average raise is 1.8%, 1.83 or 1.83% was our average over the time. And a civics lesson for my opponent here. We propose a budget for the taxpayers and the residents to vote on. We prepare a budget long-term for the year based on expenses, and we agree that that's the budget we're going to present to the community. And the community then votes on that budget. If the community doesn't want that budget and that increase, they have the right to vote no. And I'm happy to say in 13 years, they have never voted no, because we've been good stewards of their money. And I want to remind you that when we had excess funds, we returned $14 million to the taxpayers. Go find out where the town has returned to us any money. Second thing, she personally attacked me on my abilities to work. I have not questioned her ability to be a good steward, or be a good volunteer. I don't appreciate her questioning the integrity of the work that I do in my job every day. If the Great Neck School District didn't think I couldn't do the job, they wouldn't have me managing 2 departments. And that's what I do. I manage 2 departments. Lastly, I am 100% sincere in my intention to make sure that there is never hate of any kind, and it should never be tolerated, no matter what ethnic persuasion or what race, what religion, what creed, what color. It is not acceptable. And the only way you stop hate is by starting first in your own home, by teaching love and compassion, and using the tools in the education field to be able to teach our children how hate is such a terrible thing. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters tonight for having us here. I appreciate your time. I want to thank Christine for being here tonight. I want to thank you all for being here tonight. I appreciate your time, and I'm glad I had the opportunity to address you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gounaris.
Thank you. So our district, District 4, has been shortchanged, I believe, in the past 2 years from a very absent town council member. And I think my actions speak louder than words, where I'm telling everybody tonight and moving forward and throughout this campaign that I will be here full-time for our community. I'm not slighting or saying that Mr. Gounaris cannot multitask, but it's just...
But you did.
But it's just a fact. if you physically cannot be there to be in the office to listen to the residents, you have an open door. If you're not there, then it's hard to be present for your residents. And so that is all I'm pointing out. It is not that you cannot handle your jobs at the schools. It's just that we need a full-time council person for our community. So with that in mind, I also wanted to mention that the projects that we're talking about, like Project Independence for our seniors, it's a wonderful project, and we just need to keep building upon it. Everything that we have in our town, this is why we moved here, for the quality of life here. We just want to continue that and make it better and improve it further. And that takes a community to come together and let us know what areas that you want to expand upon. And that's what I'm all about. I'm about listening to this community, giving you my full attention, and knowing that you and I can work together collaboratively in all areas of this town, whether you're Republican, whether you're Democrat, whether you're independent or unaffiliated. I will listen and respect everybody's concerns and issues, and that's what you can guarantee with me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Liu. As it turns out, we're in the home stretch here. The fourth forum this evening is not going to take place due to some scheduling difficulties for Mazzy Phillip, sorry. I mispronounced your name. However, as a result, we are not able to offer a platform for Mr. Wei Hua Yan. He is, however, in the room here, if you'd like to stand and wave. So I'm putting words in your mouth, but I imagine you're available for questions privately outside, just not in the league forum here. I have some other announcements, upcoming events. The League is holding a candidate forum for the Great Neck Library that will take place on Monday, October 16th at 7 p.m. at the main library. That's at 159 Bayview Avenue in Great Neck. The next thing is, on October 19th, the League will host two forums for the county receiver position, county receiver of taxes, and county supervisor. That will be on October 19th, 7, and it will be here. Pardon me? Town, sorry. What did I say?
I don't know. She's still in Greece.
I am. It's town supervisor, sorry. In any event, it will be here. And the details are available on the League's website, since I don't want to misinform you. I'm scrambled as it is. The other thing is, please remember that Election Day is November 7th. See, I did it again. November 7th. Early voting is available from October 28th to November 5th at 27 different locations throughout the county. Details can be found on the League website as well. And then, I think those were all the ad hoc announcements, yes? Okay, got it. So in closing, I'd like to remind everyone here that holding elected office is a public service, and running for office takes some courage and a willingness to put yourself forward and kind of volunteer. The candidates this evening have been honest and complete in their responses to your questions, and I applaud them for taking the time this evening to join all of you, and I ask you to join me in saying thank you.
Thank you for having us. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you again. Thank you.
And the last thing is, I'd like to thank you as the audience. You've been respectful and attentive and engaged, and that's all we can really ask of you as citizens. So thank you, and have a good evening. This forum is now closed.